Good evening, everybody, and welcome. It is January 1st, 2020. It is our first meeting of the year. Tonight, we'll be doing a presentation on PowerShell tools and command line utilities, how you can use them together. Mr. Ryan Leap will be presenting for us. I'm going to pass the mic over to Mr. Leap at this point. Ryan, it is all yours.
Okay, great. Thanks, Mike. Hey, just wanted to say thanks to everybody and Happy New Year. And hey, I did a presentation at the PowerShell Saturday, and I think it was reasonably well received. So Mike and company said, hey, why don't you give it a run back with the online group? And so I'm taking a little liberties. I'm going to do the exact same thing, but I'm going to stick pretty close to what I did before. And so anyway, let me get right into it. Yeah, skipping our, so me, right? So real quick, I did want you to know that on my GitHub, I did go ahead and put a link to the original, let me see here, PowerShell Saturday, to the YouTube video that the RTP guys posted. So that one might be a little more polished than what we do tonight. So if you want to reference that, I think it's a good resource. So, all right. Right. Well, okay. Before I get into using a command line utility and having it work nicely with PowerShell, what I always like, a lot of times when I go to presentations or listen to people talk, I like them to kind of remind me of kind of the fundamentals and what it is that we're trying to accomplish, right? So before I just dive in and start working with a command line executable, I just want to say, okay, what are we trying to do by integrating a command line executable into our PowerShell workflow? And I wanted to hit on, okay, what's this thing about PowerShell that, it's January 1st, we have a day off, and we're all getting on the phone to hang out and talk about it. And I think, kind of what it does for us in a nutshell is it amplifies our productivity, right? So things that, maybe before you became familiar with PowerShell that were either out of reach or really, hard to accomplish, you now can knock out, and you can do it at scale, right? And so that's why we might love it, but how does it do this? What is this sort of the magic of PowerShell that amplifies our productivity? And I think that I've kind of honed in on these things that are true about PowerShell that do this for us. So one, it's predictable. So the design guys, the Jeffrey Snover and the team at Microsoft, they had all this experience with other shells and other programming languages over the years. And they said, hey, we're going to establish a naming convention. We're going to stick to that naming convention as best we can. And on top of that, with this Verb-Noun, we're going to limit the verbs that you use. And so us as administrators, we don't have to do a total guessing game when we're trying to find a command, because there's a known naming convention and there's a limited set of verbs which act on nouns. And so if we start to become familiar with some of the verbs, then we know what verbs might act on a noun in a particular way. And so just, a real quick show of that, right? So if I say get command, right, you just start seeing verbs and nouns, right, coming across the screen, because that's the way they've done the command lines. If I say get command, and I group property, group by verb, right? You can then see that. Oh, and actually, let me just sort that by count. Okay, and you see here that many commandlets are on my system, and they follow these naming conventions. And it being an object-based system, there are a ton of commandlets that get something and a ton of commandlets that set something, right? But okay, so anyway, this is the prescribed naming convention, and by and large, folks try to stick to it. And that makes you and I more productive, because when we learn, here you go, when we learn that stop is the verb to stop something, we can say git command verb stop, and we see, oh, okay, sure enough, I use stop to stop a job, I use stop to stop a process, I use stop to stop service, stop to stop a VM. I don't have to use end or quit or kill, right? I don't have to guess. I'm an administrator, I'm using PowerShell, the verb is stop, right? So that makes me more productive. All right, so that's one thing that is part of the secret sauce of PowerShell that we like, that they prescribe, that makes us more productive. All right, moving on. It's discoverable, right? So it has a very nice built-in help system. And so, I see something up here and I want to understand more about it. I just interrogate it with get help, right? Get help. I don't care. Let's see. Stop. Right. And there I've got a description. I've got parameter sets. I think one that most of us love is examples, so that I can immediately use it, cut and paste. It's ready to go. And then I like show window, right, where we can, look for something like if we, there's force, it finds it for me. I can quickly read about it, right? So we have in PowerShell a system that is predictable and discoverable, all in the console. These things amplifying our productivity. And then kind of the last thing that brings it together is this idea of composability, right? The pipeline, right? I can take these commandlets that I learn, and then I can chain them together and get an answer to a question like really kind of quickly, because one of the nice things about it that I guess I didn't really touch on is when you're seeing text come across your screen in PowerShell, if I'm saying get service bits, right? We know, we look at that and that's just some text on the screen, but we here know that that is actually an object, right? Get member, and this is all this great, all these methods and properties that are available on the bits object, right? And so as such, these properties can then be easily mapped into a commandlet that accepts parameters of these same names or of the same data types, right? So because it's not just pure raw text going across the screen, that those properties can be mapped into the parameters of other commandlets, right? And so we get this really beautiful thing of composability. So let me just demo that a little bit. So I have a file here of ice cream flavors from a local ice cream shop and the days that they were served on. And I'm just going to do a quick example of composing. So let's say I wanted to know the most popular ice cream flavor that was a berry, right? Or it was served the most frequent, right? So import CSV flavors, right? What I want, I'm going to compose that. I'm going to filter that where I can just get the flavors that have berries, where flavor, like a berry, right? So I've got that, okay. But now I want to group object, property, flavor, right? And now I want to select the name, the count, and I want to sort by the property count. Cool. I know through composability very quickly that strawberry was the most powerful, the most frequently served flavor, right? And that was really easy for me because PowerShell made that easy because I had objects. I could pipe the object to the next thing, let it filter, let it group, let it select something, sort, right? So that sort of gets at this idea of composability, right? And so these are the things that we get with commandlets, right? we get these three things, and these commandlets bring it together. And if they accept pipeline input, then we can use them to compose and be really productive with them, right? And so where I was given this presentation and saying, you know, our dilemma is you might be in an environment, you get these legacy and vendor tools, and you know, they're command line executables. Maybe it comes with a suite of executables or other scripts that aren't PowerShell, and they may produce output that you would want to fit in this model, but because it's not object-based output and it's not, you know, it might not have a good help system with it. I mean, a lot of times you'll get a command line utility. You all know it might not come with any help, or the help is very terse, and so you kind of lose these productivity amplifiers. Hey, real quick, I just wanted to pause. Is everybody hearing me okay?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, all right, thanks. Okay, so I say, how can we fix this, right? And I'm saying with PowerShell, we're actually gonna do these things. We can parse console output, we can make objects, and we can wrap it all up in a function. So in my PowerShell Saturday talk, I actually did it in this exact order. I parsed some output, showed you guys some ways to get data out of the, scrape the screen, get some output. I made an object of that data, and then I wrapped it up in a function. And it was its own kind of custom commandlet that just did what that thing, what that command line utility did, but in a PowerShell way. So I thought tonight what I could do, just to keep it fun for me, I guess, you know, is instead I thought, why don't I take a commandlet like that is already out there, and I chose get item, and let me actually use a command line utility behind the scenes to add a property to the result that get item gives me back, to make get item, I'm going to say better or more purpose-built for something I might need it to do. So I'm going to kind of go in reverse order and start with a function and then backfill in this data to make get item do something that I want it to do. Okay. So, oh, and you know, at the beginning, Mike talked about mistakes and, you know, the informality of the format. So I know I'm going to make some, and I hope y'all are forgiving for that, because I just wanted to have some fun with you guys, and we'll kind of build this together. And if I fall over some, that's just, you know, it's part of it, right? So, okay. I'm going to go to Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code, and I'm going to start building a function that, again, my end goal here is to make get item, but I'm going to make it do something in addition to what it does natively, right? So I'm going to use the snippets. If you do Control Space, there's snippet. Visual Studio Code offers all these snippets, and I'm going to do an advanced function, right? And so it templates it out for me. And as you can see, it's encouraging me to use the verb-noun naming, right? Because that's what we should follow. And by the way, I want to just give this tip. If you guys don't already do this, when I need to come up with a custom name, and you know, I want to follow the verb-noun naming. And you know, there's a built-in commandlet called getVerb that just shows you the verbs that are there. But I tell you what, I really end up doing is I'll go to Google and I'll just say PowerShell prove verbs. And I like to go to this Microsoft Doc page, because it goes into some detail about, hey, use this verb instead of that verb. Use this instead of that. These are the common ones. It really will help you if you're trying to build your own commandlet and follow the naming convention. It'll help you pick the right verb, because I'll be honest, there's times where, you know, you might think set, or it might be, you know, so, you know, even at the beginning here, they talk about when do I use new versus set, right? So there can be some confusion there. I would reference this page to kind of come up with the best verb. All right. So I'm going to make tonight get item plus. Okay. So it's just going to be get item, but do one extra thing. And because I want my commandlet that I'm building to be discoverable, I'm going to add help, and there is a little snippet for help too. I think it's, let me see here, comment help, right? And because I'm going to be, I would say, supplementing get item, I'm just going to steal from get item, get help, get item. Right, so I'm going to use their synopsis. And I'm going to say get files and folders and folder size. So we're just, that's the cool thing that we're going to do in addition to what it already does. And okay, so let me just, before I do anything else to this, I'm going to save this to demo get item. I'm going to make sure that this basic shell of, oh, where did I save it? Folder. Oh, yeah, I did. I just saved it to my repo. Sorry about that. All right, let's work out of here. Okay. Okay. Help get item. There we go. Item. There you can see we've started to make this discoverable. We haven't done much with it yet, but okay, we've got our basic shell going here and of a commandlet. And what I want is I'm going to add a parameter, and if I say get help on get item parameter path, that's I'm going to use the path, and I'm going to use the same parameter that get items use, so it'll operate like get item, right? And so I think there is also a snippet to add a parameter. Let me see if I can find that quick. There we go, parameter. Okay, so I'm getting a parameter in here. It's going to be mandatory parameter for us, right? And as you can see here, the parameter is an array of strings. Oops, sorry. Got this Surface keyboard, which is pretty wimpy here. All right. And it's going to be path, right? All right. And because we are trying to make our stuff discoverable, parameter, path, I'm going to steal. All right. So let's just make sure we're coming along the way we want. Dot sourcemin my thing. Get help. Get item plus. Okay. Now I see path, and I should have the help for specifies the path to an item, right? Okay. So we're being good stewards here, right? We're trying to build this and make sure that we get our help into our thing. Okay, so now we got this thing, and we want it to have pipeline support, right? And if you see here, this begin, process, and end, I just want to demo that a little because to me that's kind of an advanced topic of adding pipeline support, but it's pretty easy to get, right? And so really quickly, I just want to add begin block and just let you guys kind of see how these things work, right? So I'll tell you, like, so just make that, and this would be end block, right? So when your function is entered, when objects are sent to it from the pipeline, The begin block gets run once at the beginning, the end once at the end, and for each object passed in, the process block gets run, right? So if 3 objects are passed in, process block gets run 3 times. What I haven't done here, though, is set up my template here to accept pipeline input. And I can tell you, I don't really tend to remember how to do that, but what I do remember is the help system will tell me how to accept pipeline input on a parameter. And if you look in here and I just do what I pipeline, okay, if I want to be able to take value from pipeline, then that needs to be a parameter attribute that is in my function, right? So let's make sure we can do that, right? All right. Done here so far is said, hey, I'm going to take a string and I can write out verbose messages. And now I'd just like to say, hey, do I have my sort of a pipeable, shell of a commandlet set up? All right, let's see if I do. What was it? Demo. Right. So if I say get item plus path, I'm just give it 1 right now, and I see verbose. All right, we see that I entered my begin block, I entered my process block, and I entered my end block. Well, that makes sense. I only gave it 1 object, right? C autolab. But if I do some paths equal, let's do an array of items, C colon autolab. Messing with me. So there's 1 item. Let's add another. Oops. Make that a string. Probably would be smart enough, but all right. Paths. Now I've got 2, right? So let's see if our pipeline's working. On paths, pipe 2, get item plus verbose. Hey, look, passed in 2 objects. The pipeline, the magic of PowerShell, it said, okay, I'll take those objects and I'll send them through your process block twice. And honestly, I don't have many examples where I use the begin block and end block a lot, but I think I gave the example of some people might say you had something that needed to connect to a database. You could do that in your begin block, then you would have a database connection for each object that you process, and then in your end block, you could let go of that database connection, just as an example. But
hey Ryan.
Yeah, hey, hop in there, man.
So first off, you're doing an awesome job tonight. I love this.
Oh, thanks.
And I just wanted to chime in because you have covered so much fundamental stuff. That is really great. I just wanted to ask our members, because we have about 30 people in there, and everybody's just kind of chiming along. We've covered how to make function, add help, start to set some params, all that stuff. This would be a great time if anybody's feeling a little lost or a little bit unsure of where Ryan is. If you have a question, please feel free to ask. So it's just a little pause right here. Is there anybody who's not sure where we are or just didn't understand that we've covered anything so far? And I'll take silence as a good, let's let Ryan keep chugging along because he's doing awesome.
All right. Well, oh, go ahead.
All yours, buddy.
Okay. And hey, to Mike's point, I am covering all this. It's a lot, and so if you're new, hang in there, right? This is a lot, and this is not just what I'm doing by kind of banging it out in front of you. I love to show that this is how I do it, and that it is accessible. It's doable. You can get there because I got there. But these are some advanced things, and so anyway, if anybody is a little bewildered, I can totally appreciate that. And so anyway, hang in there with me. Okay, so but one thing here that I've got going on is I think so. If I do just good old get item, okay, so we have those paths, right? Those paths, and if I pipe those to get item, not my get item plus, right? It could handle that, and I think because it could take an array of strings, it could also handle it like that. Notice that either way, it did fine. I could pipe in objects one at a time, or I could give it two objects and it could handle that, right? Well, I don't have that set up right now. All I have is if you pass me the by pipeline to handle it, because if you give me an array of strings right now, let's see. So if let me demonstrate this because it's confusing, right? So if I say what do I want to say here? The path is, right? So I'm just going to, so if I say some paths, pipe that to get item path plus, right? The path is that, the path is that, right? Just like you kind of, well, and throw in our verbose just so you can see the, bop, bop, bop. Notice how I hit the process block, that message comes out. I hit the process again, that message comes out. Well, if I try and use get item plus path, some paths, crap, that's not what I wanted, right? It just treated that one object. And see, I didn't do the process block twice, but so I need, if I want you to be able to pipe stuff into me and me be able to iterate through it, and I want you to be able to give me multiple things in the path and me iterate through it, I've got to add that for you. So what I would do, I'm going to say for each item in path, right? And I'll just, so if it comes in through the pipeline, there's only one item, right? Because it pipes it in one at a time, and so this code will work. And if it comes in the other way, oh, I should say, but now item is going to be the iteration of each item. All right, so let's just make sure, right? So if I say, let's go back there, that needs to keep working, and that worked fine. In fact, sometimes now that verbose stuff is kind of polluting my, right? That's cool. And now get item plus, if I didn't mess it up, path, some paths, boom. All right, remember before I had this, which was, I was not happy about. And now, because I put my for each, I'm iterating through it so that when they give me an array of strings, not through the pipeline, I'm still iterating through. So I'm behaving nicely like get item. So anyway, wanted you to see, you can have your cake and eat it too. I can take an array of strings on the path parameter, or you can pipe in string at a time, and I can handle that through the pipeline. Okay, so now to the whole idea of parsing out command line output and making it work, do something cool. Well, first of all, let's start here. Let's do this. We'll do get item, because I'm essentially supplementing get item, right? Path item, right? All right, let me get rid of that. Demo. So now some paths pipe to get item plus acts just like get item, because that's all we're doing. We're just calling get item, right? Okay, but now I'm to the part where I should have said, hey, let's improve get item. And so what I'll do is I'll say this will be item info equals. So I'll get that in a variable, and then what I'm going to want to do, all right, so okay, trying to switch gears just a little bit here. What I would like to do is know the size on disk of AutoLab and the size on list of that scripts folder, right? And so I could use PowerShell to iterate through all the files and count, but for this demo, I'm actually going to use the sysinternals utility called disk usage, du, And I'll just show you how that works real quick. So call an AutoLab. It gives me back the banner. I don't want to see the banner. Okay, it gives me back the size, right? And I think, so what I'd like to do is I'd like to take that and add that as a property to what get item returns. Because, hey, I think that's useful, right? So what I want to do is now show you guys how we could parse that out of this data here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to du result. I'm going to assign that to a variable. You see that processing? So that annoys me. I don't want that, right? That is going to an output stream. I think that's the error stream, and I don't want to see it. And so I just do that, and I'm still getting my result back into my variable, okay? And so, yeah, if you want to learn more about output streams, you can, and redirection. Those are the things you would want to look for. But I'm just saying, hey, I don't want to see that output stream, even though it's useful if you're just using it at the command line by yourself. For what I'm doing, I don't want to see it. So I pipe that out to null, so I'm not bothered with it. Okay. So now, how do I get that information? That's what I want, right? So PowerShell is friendly enough to say, I'm going to take this data that this command line utility returns, and I'm going to give that back to you as an array of strings. How do I know that? Well, if I look at this, that's my first item in my array. That's the second item in my array. How do I know it's a string? Well, I can say get type. What are you? Okay, you're a string. Cool. So I want, what do I want? Sorry, keyboard man.
So Ryan, is it fair to say when working with a lot of this stuff is that what you're going to get back into the console is going to be strings? So you just going to be a lot of string manipulation?
String manipulation, straight up.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, and so, all right, now I know what my string is, right? He's him, but how do I get the number and not the size on disk and not the bytes on the end, right? And so, as I mentioned, it's a string, and because I'm .NET, I get the benefit of all the string methods, right? And so I can say get member type, method. What methods are available to me to manipulate strings, right? And I get this crazy amount of methods to mess with strings. And, you know, another little Google trick, right? So you're like, all right, but yeah, how do I know how to use 2-byte, or how do I know how to use substring? Well, I'm sure there's plenty of great ways. Well, I mean, another way I just do it is I know I'm using, so I do .NET, there you go, string method, right? How do I use substring? And so I just go to the Microsoft documentation, and I see that, you know, it'll tell me a little bit about how this string thing works, and that it receives a substring from an instance, or I can, you know, look at this and I can get it from a certain position in the string. So anyway, that's just one of the ways I kind of learn about how to use that. But I don't want to divert on that too much. Let me get back to the fact that I want to get that data out of there. Okay, so in my case, I'm going to want to get rid of that bytes. So I want to say, where is the index of bytes in here? 21. Okay, cool. So I'm going to take a substring from 0 to that, right? Cool. I got rid of space bytes, right? I don't want, yeah, right? And so that was helpful. All right, well, now.
So Ryan, hold on, back up a second there.
Sure.
I lost you on that one. So where is our index of bytes? 21. What is that telling me?
Okay.
Run through that one again.
If I were to count to 21, I would land right there.
Oh, I got you.
Yep.
I missed that. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're
yeah.
21 spaces in
Yeah.
on the line.
Where, yeah, yes, I'm 21 in. Exactly
Okay.
right. Yep. So, okay. So now right. And so then what I said, Mike, was I said, okay, I went from the beginning of that string out to 21, right? And so kind of even when you look at my code here, granted, I lost you on that, but you can kind of see, okay, I see this guy is trying to find the index of bytes, and then he's getting rid of everything that, he's taken from 0 till he reaches the bytes, right? And so that's why I get back what I got, right? And so, and then what I want to do is let me see, what do I want to do? So I want to do, actually, I think I kind of might have even screwed up my own thing. Actually, did I want 3 or 2 in this case, guys? Was that the size? Yeah, I actually wanted, messing up my demo here. I wanted, I don't want size on disk. Size on disk has stuff to do with, sectors and whatnot, I think. So, okay, that's what I want. All right. So now I want to get to the number, right? So what I can do is then say take the substring of what I have there. And here's a trick I do. I want the length of that string gone.
Hey, Ryan,
Yeah.
you're going to want to change the 3 to a 2. That's
Oh, thank you.
string as well.
I was wondering the same thing.
All right. Thanks for paying attention. I appreciate it. Okay. Did I get it now? All right, cool. Check it out. So I said, now I want, the length of this junk, I want it gone, right? And I just said, take everything after that length, and that gave me that. Now, check this out. Then at the end, I just want to turn that into a real number, not a string, right? And now, out of, disk usage result, I've got raw data, and that's what I wanted, right? And so, voila, what I want to do. All right, so here's a trick for you to take home. I want that line that we composed together. I say get history. Select span here. I'll do it right. Select object, span, property, command line. Last one, pipe that to my clipboard and go back to my code, right? Bam. Okay. So what am I doing here? I first needed to say, where's our D result where speaking of get history, we called, wow, sorry about that.
Someone's been busy.
Yeah. That was the command that we went to get our result in the first place. And okay, so I populate that variable, and then I want to say size in bytes equals, right? All right. Now, don't let me lose here. What I've done here is we're still just calling get item. I'm assigning the results of get item to the variable. Then I'm saying, hey, for that same right? Let's make sure I'm not hard coded. I want to get the size info for the item that we're working on. Okay. I'm going to get that in here. Then I'm going to parse out that size. Now I've got that size. Now what I want to do is I want to add member, input object to item info, info. All right, so I'm going to add a note property name, call it size in bytes, property value, size in bytes, right? And what I'm going to do, just for now, let me use pass through. That means I'm going to, hey, add member, throw onto the item info that we're getting back, size in bytes, and just kick out the object on the other side, right? So, all right, let's see if we did that right. Now, I hope we did, especially with you guys looking over my shoulder. Hopefully I didn't mess that up too much. All right, so we're saving. We're going to dot source in our demo. All right, we have some paths. I'm going to pipe that to get item plus. All right, you don't see anything exciting there, right? Well, that's because that's sort of the default. Oh, did I? Yeah, okay. I want to select name and size in bytes. Hey, check it out. I mean, is that cool or what? I mean, we just got, so if we do get item, it doesn't have size in bytes, but our get item plus does have size in bytes. And why? Because behind the scenes, we were sneaky and we went and we called disk usage on that same thing. We snuck in there and we parsed out the size and then we stuck it into the object that get item got to us. So like, okay, we've been fighting together, working through, getting our help, doing all this, how to parse, and then all of a sudden you slap in what you did, and now you actually have like a tool that before, like, I mean, check this out. Like we just can do, now I can do this. I can say get child item, right? C:, users. Oh, you know what? I'm going to do directories because I didn't account for the fact that I'm going to be trying to do this on all things that get passed in here. I should have an if in there that says if it's a directory, don't try and get the disk size, but let's not worry about that, right? So I'm going to say get child item, just the directories, right? And then what I'm going to do is say, heck, I'll recurse, and I'm going to select object dash property full name. All right, I'm going to sort, well, here, I'm going to expand the property full name because I just want strings. Full name. Did I get that name? Full name. Pipe to sort object. All right. So these are all my, ooh, that's just too many, right? That's probably a terrible idea. Let me go a little further into Ryan. So sure, we'll go into documents. How about, all right, is that my downloads folder? Okay, so check this out. So I could take that and then I could pipe that into get item plus, and then I could say select object, the full name, and what was it, size in bytes? Bytes. And say sort object, size in bytes, right? And now it is chugging, right? Because behind the scenes, for every one of those folders, I am asking that command line utility to, you know, get the size of each of those folders. So that was perhaps ill-advised on my part, because I don't know how much I got in that downloads folder, but it's going through there. And I probably should have used verbose so we could have seen it kind of working through there. And then it's sorting the results based on, you know what? After all that, I didn't. Was it size in bytes, guys? Format. List. I wasn't seeing my sizes, but I'm thinking it's because it's just the way so I said give it directories, select, expand, full name, sort, get item plus, full name, size. Yeah, that should work.
I thought you had it right, man.
Yeah. Well, shame on me for picking such a big folder. There you go. There you go. Right. So check it out, guys.
Go.
Is that awesome?
Okay.
Right. Like all of a sudden we took something like disk usage that didn't have composability, nice name, help, and we gave, by basically tagging that property, that data onto get item, I quickly found that, oh my gosh, I need to clean up the Leap's 50th anniversary celebration because it is stealing all my disk, right? And so I really, that's my topic tonight. I just really wanted to show you that you could basically breathe all this PowerShell goodness into a quick, function that you built, and PowerShell does a lot of the heavy lifting for you. If you can learn a little bit about, hey, how do I call an executable, take that result and get something out of it? And then I could even, do what we did where we slapped that data into the object that get items getting back for us. Now you're giving somebody an object that has all the things that they might like, this time I won't do what I just did before, get item plus, C: scripts, result equals. I mean, what's really cool here is I got back an object that had everything I wanted, and plus I've got a new friend, right? And so it's just like, it just works. It's just PowerShell, right? It's not anything that somebody has to think about how to use disk usage to iterate through their disk. You did it for them by kind of adding that into built-in PowerShell, a built-in PowerShell commandlet. So anyway, really, guys, that was kind of what I wanted to present to you, show you that you could do things like this. I mean, there's a lot more we can do. You can do more with parameter validation. Like right now, I'm assuming you're giving me good paths. I could add parameter validation and kick it out if you give me bad stuff. As I mentioned before, what I should have done. Do you see this PS is container, right? I don't want to do disk usage on a file, because a file already, when you do get item on a file, it already tells you, I guess it does, right? Yeah, it already tells you how big it is. So
I guess in that same respect, you could even just overwrite the length value.
Oh, sure.
With size on disk or
You
size
could,
in bytes.
yeah, you could add it. Oh, you're right. You could do that, or I could say this. I could say, result dot PS is, I have something that I can do an if on. So if, result dot PS is container, then I'm going to go into my block where I do the disk usage thing and do all that, right? But if it's not a container, I won't do that. So anyway, all right. Well, look, y'all take it from here, or have whatever questions or wherever you want to go with it. I think that was really kind of, let me do this before I hand it back over, right? So, this is what we ended up with in our own way. We kind of brought in a command line utility into PowerShell. Yeah, we could have done it all natively in PowerShell, but I wanted to show that you could get output from a command line utility, and you land here. But just, remember that these are the patterns, right, that have been prescribed. And when you go to make your own commandlets and use other scripts that maybe a VB script, I just had to do that recently. I needed to use the Office volume licensing VB script, and I needed to parse all the output from it and turn it into objects. That's exactly what I did. I just shelled out to C script to call the VB script. I parsed that data. I turned it into actionable properties that made sense. And I was able to fix a bunch of licensing issues at our company where we had done an accidental deployment. And so anyway, this is what I would hope you can kind of come away with, that you can bring these sort of things to bear on other utilities and other scripts that maybe people have provided that don't quite get you where you need it to be, right? So yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the other values that, at least I've used something like that, especially with DU. I've never thought to use DU. I've used like Robocopy in the same regard. But the idea that if you tried to get the spot, recursively go down, PowerShell is not the best way, and DU is certainly much faster. Is getting you the size on disk. And so if you use that, it's much better to give those values to you instead of using PowerShell itself. So you can add that functionality in a much more efficient way than doing it the other way. So I think I'm super, I was really glad to see so much stuff you brought.
Yeah. And that's a great point. It's possible that you would even just use a command line utility because of its speed. Maybe you're doing something that's at a scale that when you tried it with the native PowerShell, it wasn't as fast, But yeah, that's a great example. So yeah.
So Ryan, this stuff was awesome tonight. First of all, thank you for doing this, and thank you for sharing your knowledge with us.
Oh, sure.
Appreciate that so much. So I think you got the creative juices of a few people going, because in the chat, people have just extended it in their head and said, like, well, how would I format the output for megabytes or gigabytes?
Oh,
or
sure.
how would I handle error messages, stuff like that? So I'm not asking you to find that solution, but maybe if you want to talk about the idea that tools should do simple things, and maybe we break those out into simple, you can call in something that is formatting, but
actually, that's a great, I mean, that's a really good topic. What I did here is I did not make any assumptions like about what the person who might use this get item plus might want to do. I just gave them the property, right? But you could very easily make the argument that wouldn't it be nice if you went ahead and did size in MB, right? And somebody else can do that conversion, or we could have done it ourselves, right? I mean, so obviously, result dot size in bytes, right, divided by 1 MB, and then we could have said, math, round that crap for me. And then we could have thrown that into, size in MB to be friendly for some. So then we're giving somebody an object that they don't have to do more manipulation on. And we just, as we are in here, we're going to add another member, and instead it's going to be size in MB, and we were kind enough to do that for them, right? And by all means do that. I think in the one case, I'm just was saying, hey, I'm going to get this data for them. They can be smart enough as to what they want to do with it. The utility disk usage gave it back to me in bytes, so I just got the bytes and slapped it onto the object. But yeah, for sure, nothing wrong with being friendly and saying, I'm going to give them more of what they might want.
So it also brings up a good point that I run into when I deal with some of my coworkers who are not necessarily strong at building tools, and they want to get something built, whether it is they're trying to do it themselves or they ask someone for help. And they're sort of like, they want to swing for the fences in the first pass, which is, I want everything to work. And the point I'm trying to make is sometimes when you go at solving these solutions and try to get 52 parameters to work on the first iteration, it's not realistic, because it's very hard to troubleshoot that. So one of the things that's really interesting about the way Ryan worked tonight is that he built up in steps. So based on what we just saw with some of the questions that came out, like I would say, okay, I got this working. Hey, what happens if someone throws a bad path at this? Let me try to figure that out.
Yep.
Hey, let me format the output a little bit. Let me try that. But you're building up in steps. The tool that you get finished with may be 4 or 5 revisions down the road. But by doing that, you can figure out sort of each piece by itself with the problems that come with it, rather than trying to tackle all 6 parameters and formatting and output and error checking in one shot.
Yeah, I mean, Mike, that's spot on. It's too hard, right? I can solve a targeted problem, right? But I can't do, I think that's part of the skill you develop just in even like a programming discipline. It's like, what am I trying to solve? Y'all even saw me, I had to really argue with myself to pivot. Okay, now I'm trying to solve just getting the data out of this string. So let's not worry about pipelines and any of that stuff. Just how do I get this data out of the string? Okay, I got the data out of the string. Now let me try and plug that back into the thing. Yeah, you gotta break the problem down into solvable pieces and take them on, yeah, like bite size, just like you were suggesting, and then you'll be able to develop a solution. But that's a skill. That's a big part of the developing the programming skill is I'm not smart enough to solve this whole thing, but I can solve a piece of it, you know?
Mm-hmm. So hang here. I want to stop the recording because I think we're at a natural breaking point here.
Yeah, perfect.
Before we do that, let me just ask, because we still have 20 or so people on the line. Is there anybody who wants to get any questions in that are related to this before I end the recording for the evening? All right, so we'll stop here. That doesn't mean it's the end. We're just going to stop the recording. So
I will